Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shirishikam Vitam Scha Om Agyana Timaranda Shagyana Jana Shalakya Chakshurun Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bishtam Supurakam Guraganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chindya Chindya Samastaveda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindabidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwa Gurunsha Divyat Bhagavat Prem Novi Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Varanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Bandetam Shubhanam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Vanshakopatarubyascha Kripasindubhyavacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamananyaya Krishna Prema Pranayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is the Madhya-lila, chapter 13, the Lord's dancing at Ratha-yatra. So, this is verse number 83. Nritye Prabhu Jahan Jaha Pare Parato Sara Sasagara Shaila Mahi Kore Talamo Nritye Prabhu Jahan Jaha Pare Parato Sasagara Shaila Mahi Tare Talamo. Wherever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stepped while dancing, the whole earth with its hills and seas appeared to tilt. Stamba Sveda Pulaka Ashru Kampa Vaivarnya Nanababe Bibashata Garvaharsha Doinya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced, he displayed various blissful transcendental changes in his body. Sometimes he appeared as though stunned, sometimes the hairs of his body stood on end, sometimes he perspired, cried, trembled, and changed color, and sometimes he exhibited symptoms of helplessness, pride, exuberance, and humility. Acharakana pare bhume garijai Subharna Parvata Jaiche Bhumete Lotai. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down with a crash while dancing, he would roll on the ground. At such times it appeared that a golden mountain was rolling on the ground. Nityananda Prabhu Dui Hata Prasharya Prabhure Darite Chahe Ashapashadaya. Nityananda Prabhu would stretch out his two hands and try to catch the Lord when he was running here and there. Prabhupada che bole acharya korea hungar, haribo haribo bole bar bar. Advaita Acharya would walk behind the Lord and loudly chant haribo haribo again and again. Loka nivarite hoila tina manda pratama mandale nityananda mahaba. Just to check the crowds from coming too near the Lord, the devotees formed three circles. The first circle was guided by Nityananda Prabhu, who is Balaram himself, the possessor of great strength. Kashishwara Govindari Jata Bhaktagan Hatahati Kore Hoila Dvitiya Abaran. All the devotees headed by Kashishwar and Govinda linked hands and formed a second circle around the Lord. Bahire Prataparudra Loya Patragan Mandala Hoya Kore Loka Nibaran. Maharaj Prataparudra and his personal assistants formed a third circle around the two inner circles just to check the crowds from coming too near. Harichandaner skande hasta alambiya prabhura nrityadeke raja vishtahoya. With his hands on the shoulders of Harichanda, Maharaj Prataparudra could see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing, and the king felt great ecstasy. Henakale Srivasa Premavishtaman Rajara Agero Hedeke Prabhur Nartan. While the king beheld the dancing, Srivas Thakur, standing in front of him, became ecstatic as he saw the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rajara Age Harichandan, Rajara Age Harichandan Deke Srinivas, Haste Tari Sparshiko He How Ek Pash. Seeing Srivas Thakur standing before the king, Harichanda touched Srivas with his hand and requested him to step aside. Nritya Beshe Srinivas Kichvina Jane Bar Teliteho Kroda Hoila Mane. Absorbed in watching Mahaprabhu dance, Srivas Thakur could not understand why he was being touched and pushed. After he was pushed again and again, he became angry. Chapara Mariya Tare Koila Nibaran, Chapara Kana Kruda Hoila Harichandan. Srivas Thakur slapped Harichandan to stop him from pushing him. In turn, this made Harichandan angry. Kruda Hoya Tare Kichu Chahe Bolibare Apane Prataparudra Nibarila Tare. As the angered Harichandan was about to speak to Srivas Thakur, Prataparudra Maharaj personally stopped him. Bhagavan Tumi Ihara Hasta Sparsha Paila Amara Bhagye Nahi Tumi Kritarta Hoila. Maharaj Prataparudra said, "You are very fortunate, for you have been graced by the touch of Srivas Thakur. I'm not so fortunate. You should feel obliged to him." Prabhur Nityadeki Loke Hoila Chamatkar Anya Achuk Jagannathera Ananda Par. Everyone was astonished by the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and even Lord Jagannath became extremely happy to see him. Ratha-stira koila age na kore gaman animisha netre kore nritya darshan. The car came to a complete standstill and remained immobile while Lord Jagannath, with unblinking eyes, watched the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Subhadra Balaramer Hridaye Ulas Nritya Deki Dui Janar Shri Muketehas. The goddess of fortune, Subhadra, and Lord Balaram both felt great happiness and ecstasy within their hearts. Indeed, they were seen smiling at the dancing. So here are the references, of course, to the three deities of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, who were watching Mahaprabhu dance from atop their cars, being situated on their cars of Ratha-yatra, and they're watching Mahaprabhu dance. Udanda Nritya Prabhur Adbhuta Bikar Ashta Sattvika Bhava Uday Hoy Samakal. When Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high, 8 wonderful transformations indicative of divine ecstasy were seen in his body. All these symptoms were visible simultaneously. Mamshabrana Samaroma Brinda Pulakita Simulera Brikajena Kantaka Beshtita. His skin erupted with goose pimples, and the hairs of his body stood on end. His body resembled a simile silk cotton tree, all covered with thorns. Ek ek dantera kampa dekite lage bai, loke jane danta sab kashya padai. Indeed, the people became afraid just to see his teeth chatter, and they even thought that his teeth would fall out. So Mahaprabhu is experiencing this divine ecstasy. His hairs are standing on end, and all his body looks like it's covered with goosebumps. And he appears to be a simula. What is it? Simula tree. Simile tree. All covered with these thorns, but it's actually hairs raised coming out of like goosebumps. And then his teeth are shaking, and people are thinking worried that his teeth will fall out. So this is all symptoms of his divine ecstasy. That Mahaprabhu would experience so many bodily transformations when he was in ecstasy. Sarvange prasveda chute tate raktodgam jajagaga gadgadabachan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole body flowed with perspiration and at the same time oozed blood. He made the sounds jajagaga in a voice choked with ecstasy. So this Jajagaga refers to Jagannath. And you say Jagagaga, Jajagaga. Jalayantra darajaiche bahe ashuja ashapashe lokajata bijila sakal. Tears came forcefully from the eyes of the Lord as if from a syringe, and all the people surrounding him became wet. Deokante gora Barna dekiye aruna kabukanti deki jena malika pushpasam. Everyone saw the complexion of his body change from white to pink, so that his luster resembled that of a malika flower. Kabu stamba kabu prabhu bhumete lotai shushka kashta sama para hasta na chalai. Sometimes he appeared stunned, and sometimes he rolled on the ground. Indeed, sometimes his legs and hands became as hard as dry wood, and he did not move. Kabu bhume pare kabu shwasa hoy hina jahadeki bhaktaganer prana hoy kina. When the Lord fell to the ground, sometimes his breathing almost stopped. When the devotees saw this, their lives also became very feeble. Kabu netre nashai ja muke parefena amritera dara chanda bimbe bahe jena. Water flowed from his eyes and sometimes through his nostrils, and foam fell from his mouth. These flowings appeared to be torrents of nectar descending from the moon. Sefenal Loya Shubhananda Koilapan Krishna Prema Rasika Teho Mahabhagyavan. The foam that fell from the mouth of Mahaprabhu was taken and drunk by Shubhananda, because he was very fortunate and expert in relishing the mellow of ecstatic love of Krishna. Emata Tandava Nritya Koila Katakan Baba Visheshe Prabhur Praveshilaman. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed his devastating dance for some time, his mind entered into a mood of ecstatic love. Tandava Nritya Chari Swarupere Agyadila Hridaya Janiya Swarup Gaite Lagila. After abandoning the dancing, the Lord ordered Swarup Damodar to sing. Understanding his mind, Swarup Damodar began to sing as follows. Satta Paramanata Painu Jahalage Parana Dahane Jurigenu. Now I have gained the Lord of my life, in the absence of whom I was being burned by Cupid and was withering away. This song refers to Srimati Radharani's meeting with Krishna at the holy place of Kurukshetra, where Sri Krishna and his brother and sister came to visit when there was a solar eclipse. It is a song of separation from Krishna. When Radharani met Krishna at Kurukshetra, She remembered his intimate association in Vrindavan, and she thought, now I have gained the Lord of my life. In his absence, I was being burned by the by the fire of separation, or the arrow, and thus I was withering away. Now I have my life again. Eduya uchashware gaya damodar anande madhura nritya korana ishwar. When this refrain was loudly sung by Swarup Damodar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began rhythmically dancing in transcendental bliss. Dhire dhire Jagannath korana gaman, age nritya kore bolan, sachiranandan. The car of Lord Jagannath began to move slowly, while the son of Mother Sachi went ahead and danced in front. Mahaprabhu's dancing in front of the car of Jagannath. Jagannathe netra diya sabe nache gai, kirtaniya sahaprabhu pache jai. While dancing and singing, all the devotees in front of Lord Jagannath kept their eyes on him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the end of the procession with the Sankirtan performers. Jagannathe Magna Prabhur Nayana Hridoy Shri Hasta Juge Kore Gitara Abhinoy. His eyes and mind fully absorbed in Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to play the drama of the song with his two arms. Gorajadi Pache Chale Shama Hoy Stire Gorage Chale Shama Chale Dire Dire. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dramatically enacting the song, he would sometimes fall behind in the procession. At such times, Lord Jagannath's car would come to a standstill. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again went forward, Lord Jagannath's car would slowly start again. Emata Gora Shame Dohe Tela Teli Swarate Shamere Rake Gora Mahaboli. There was a sort of competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath in seeing who would lead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Lord Jagannath wait in his car. In his Anubhashya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the ecstasy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows. After giving up the company of the gopis in Vrindavan, Sri Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda, engaged in his pastimes at Dwarka. When Krishna went to Kurukshetra with his brother and sister and others from Dwarka, he again met the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalita. That is, Krishna himself assuming the part of Srimati Radharani in order to understand Krishna. Lord Jagannath Dev is Krishna, and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srimati Radharani. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leading Lord Jagannath toward the Gundicha temple corresponded to Srimati Radharani leading Krishna toward Vrindavan. Sri Kshetra Jagannath Puri was taken as the kingdom of Dwarka, the place where Krishna enjoys supreme opulence. But he was being led by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan, the simple village where all the inhabitants are filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. Sri Kshetra is a place of Aishvarya-lila, just as Vrindavan is the place of Madhurya-lila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's following at the rear of the Rath indicated that Lord Jagannath, Krishna, was forgetting the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Although Krishna neglected the inhabitants of Vrindavan, he could not forget them. Thus, in his opulent Ratha-yatra, he was returning to Vrindavan. In the role of Srimati Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was examining whether the Lord still remembered the inhabitants of Vrindavan. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell behind the Rath car, Jagannath Dev, Krishna himself, understood the mind of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Jagannath sometimes fell behind the the dancing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to indicate to Srimati Radharani that he had not forgotten. Thus Lord Jagannath would stop the forward march of the Rath and wait at a standstill. In this way, Lord Jagannath agreed that without the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, he would not feel satisfied. While Jagannath was thus waiting, Gaurasundar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, immediately came forward to Krishna. At such times, Lord Jagannath would proceed ahead very slowly. These competitive exchanges were all part of the love affairs between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And that competition between Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy for Lord Jagannath and Jagannath's ecstasy for Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emerged successful. Nachite nachite prabhur hoila bhavantar hastatuli shloka pare kore uchashvar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing his ecstasy changed. Raising his two arms, he began to recite the following verse in a loud voice. Ya komara harasa eva ivaras ta eva chaitra chapas te chon milita malati surabaya proda kadambanila sachaivasmi tatapi tatra surata vyapara lila vido reva rodasi vedasi taru tale cheta samutkandate. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vedasi tree. That is my desire. A shloka Mahaprabhu paribar bar swarupera bina arta kehona jane ihar. This verse was recited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again and again, but for Swarup Damodar, no one could understand its meaning. E shlokarta purbe kori jache vyakyan shlokera bhavarta kori sankepe akyan. I have briefly explained this verse. Now I shall simply describe it. I have already explained this verse. Now I shall simply describe it in brief. Purbe jaiche kuruketre sab gopigan Krishnera darshana paya ananditaman. Formerly, all the gopis of Vrindavan were very pleased when they met with Krishna in the holy place Kurukshetra. Jagannath deki prabhur se baba utila se baba bishta hoya Duya Gaujaila. Similarly, after seeing Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awoke with the ecstasy of the gopis. Being absorbed in this ecstasy, he asked Swarup Damodar to sing the refrain. Avaseshe Radha Krishna Kore Nivedan Se Tumi Se Ami Se Nava Sangam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke thus to Lord Jagannath. You are the same Krishna and I am the same Radharani. We are meeting again in the same way that we met in the beginning of our lives. Tatapi amara mana kore brindavan brindarane uday karo apanacharan. Although we are both the same, my mind is still attracted to Vrindavan Dham. I wish that you will please again appear with your lotus feet in Vrindavan. Ihan Ihan lokaranya hati goda ratadwani tahan pushparanya bringa pika narashuni. In Kurukshetra there are crowds of people, elephants and horses, and also the rattling of chariots. But in Vrindavan there are flower gardens, and the humming of the bees and the chirping of the birds can be heard. Ihan Rajabes Sange Sab Katriyagan Tahan Gopavesh Sange Muralibadan. Here at Kurukshetra you are dressed like a royal prince, accompanied by great warriors, but in Vrindavan you appear just like an ordinary cowherd boy, accompanied only by your beautiful flute. Braje Tomar Sange Jay Sukha Ashvadan Se Sukha Samudrer Ihan Nahi Ekan. Here there is not even a drop of the ocean of transcendental happiness that I enjoyed with you in Vrindavan. Ama loya puna lila koraha Vrindavane tabe amara manobansha hoita purane. I therefore request you to come to Vrindavan and enjoy pastimes with me. If you do so, my ambition will be fulfilled. Bhagavate Ache Jaiche Radhika Bachan Purvetaha Sutra Madhye Kori Jache Varnan. I have already described in brief Srimati Radharani's statement from Srimad Bhagavatam. Say Baba Be She Prabhupada Arashlok Say Sab Shlokararta Nahi Bujhe Lok. In that ecstatic mood, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited many other verses, but people in general could not understand their meaning. Sarupa Gosai Jane Na Kohe Artatar Shriyanga Gosai Koila Se Arta Prachar. The meaning of those verses was known to Swarup Damodar, but he did not reveal it. However, Sri Rupa Goswami has broadcast the meaning. Swarup Sange Jara Arta Kori Ashvadan Nritya Madhye Se Shlok Korana Pratam. Swarup Sange Jara Arta Kori Ashvadan Nritya Madhye Se Shlok Korana Patan. While dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to recite the following verse, which he tasted in the association of Swarup Damodar. Ahus chate nalina naba padaravindam yogeshvarar ridi vichintyam agara bodai samsara kupa patitotaranavalam geham jusham api manasi udayat sadannaha. The gopis spoke thus, Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. This is the feeling of the residents of Vrindavan, the gopis. The gopis spoke thus. Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. Anyara ridoiman moramana brindavan mane bane ek korijani tahan tomar paradvaya karaha jadi udaya tabe tomar purna kripa mani. Sometimes in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, for most people the mind and heart are one. But because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy. Prananaz Shunamora Satyanivedan Brajamar Sadan Tahan Tomara Sangam Na Paile Na Rohe Jivaran Bratamanata Shunamora Satya Nivedan Braja Amara Sadan Tahan Tomara Sangama Na Paile Na Rohe Jivan. My dear Lord, kindly hear my true submission. My home is Vrindavan and I wish your association there. But if I do not get it, then it will be very difficult for me to keep my life, for me to preserve my life. Purve Udabadware Ebe Sakat Amare Joga Jnane Kohila Upai Tumi Vidagda Kripamoy Jaha Amara Ridoy More Aiche Kohite Najujai. My dear Krishna, formerly when you were staying in Mathura, you sent Uddhava to teach me speculative knowledge of mystic yoga. Now you yourself are speaking the same thing, but my mind doesn't accept it. There is no place in my mind for Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Although you know me very well, you are still instructing me in Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga. It is not right for you. It is not right for you to do so. Chittakare Toma Hoite Vishaye Chahi Lagaite Jatnakori Nari Kadibare Tare Dhyana Shikakaraha Loka Hashayamara Stanastan Nakore Vichare. Mahaprabhu continued, I would like to withdraw my connection. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I would like to withdraw my consciousness from you and engage it in material activities. But even though I try, I cannot do so. I am naturally inclined to you only. Your instructions for me to meditate on you are therefore simply ludicrous. In this way, you are killing me. It is not very good for you to think of me as a candidate for your instructions. Nahi Gopi Yogeshwar Parakamala Tomar Dhyanakore Paibe Santosh Tomara Bhaktya Paripati Taramaje Kutinati Shuni Gopir Arakbata Rosh Shuni Nahi Gopi Yogeshwara Parakamala Tomara Dhyanakore Paibe Santosh Tomara Bhakya Paripati Tara Madhye Kutinati Shuni Gopira Aro Bare Rosh. The gopis are still like the mystic The gopis are not like the mystic yogis. They will never be satisfied simply by meditating on your lotus feet and imitating the so-called yogis. Teaching the gopis about meditation is another kind of duplicity. When they are instructed to undergo mystic yoga practices, they are not at all satisfied. On the contrary, they become more and more angry with you. Deo smriti nahi jar samsara kupa kahantar tata hoite nachahe udar viraha samudra jale kama timingile gile gopigane neho torapar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the gopis have fallen into the great ocean of separation and are being devoured by the Timingila fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these Timingila fish, for they are pure devotees. Since they have no material conception of life, why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want that liberation because they do not want that liberation desired by yogis and jnanis. For they are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. Vrindavana Govardhan Shamuna Pulinaban Se Kunje Rasadika Lila Se Brajara Brajajan Se Brajara Brajajan Matapita Bandhugan Morachitra Kemone Pasarila. It is amazing that you have forgotten the land of Vrindavan, and how is it that you have forgotten your father, mother, and friends? How have you forgotten Govardhan Hill, the bank of the Jamuna and the forest river, and the forest, the bank of the Jamuna and the forest where you enjoyed the Ratha-yatra dance? It is amazing that you have forgotten the land of Vrindavan, and how is it that you have forgotten your father, mother, and friends? How have you forgotten Govardhan Hill, the bank of the Jamuna and the forest where you enjoyed the Ratha-yatra dance? Vidagdam Ridu Shad Vidagda Mridu Sadguna Shushila Snigda Karuna Tumi Tomar Nahi Doshabas Tabe Se Tomaraman Nahi Smare Brajajan Se Amara Durdaiva Vilas. Krishna, you are certainly a refined gentleman with all good qualities. You are well behaved, soft-hearted, and merciful. I know there is not even a tinge of fault to be found in you, yet your mind does not even remember the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This is only my misfortune and nothing else. Najani apana duk deki brajeshwari mukh brajajana ridoya bidare kiba mar brajabasi kiba jio braje ashi kena jio duka sahai bare. I do not care for my personal happiness, but when I see the morose face of Mother Yashoda and the hearts of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan breaking because of you, I wonder whether you want to kill them all, or do you want to enliven them by coming there? Why are you simply keeping them alive in a state of suffering? So here we find that the residents of Vrindavan, in particular Srimati Radharani and the gopis, are meeting with Krishna after so many years have passed. And the conversation turns to that Krishna sent Uddhava in the big chariot to Vrindavan to enliven the gopis, because he was remembering them, of course. But there Radharani began by chastising Uddhava, who she called the, she called him the, I believe, something servant of an adjective. I'm trying to remember something to the,
Ungrateful.
Well, ungrateful or not untrustworthy, like that. But yes, ungrateful. The referred to both Uddhava, like if the word were ungrateful servant of an ungrateful master, but was not that word, but to the effect that Krishna, the point is, Srimati Radharani is expressing anger towards Krishna. Said, you sent Uddhava to teach us about, we're very fortunate to have a relationship with you, and if we meditate upon you and always remember you, then we'll be all right. But they were very angry, and the residents of Vrindavan, especially the gopis, and Srimati Radharani's chastising Uddhava, for coming there and talking about how they were fortunate to remember Krishna. And they say, we're not trying to meditate on Krishna. We're not yogis. We're
Trying to stop remembering.
Huh?
We're trying to forget and we're trying to stop remembering.
Yes, exactly. I do not care for my personal unhappiness, but when I see the morose face of Mother Yashoda and the hearts of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan breaking because of you, I wonder whether you want to kill them all, or do you want to enliven them by coming there? Why are you simply keeping them alive in a state of suffering? Tomaraje anya besh, anya sanga, anya desh, brajajani kabu nahi bai, brajabhumi chadite nare, tomana dekile mare, brajajane ki habe upai. The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not want you dressed like a prince. So Radharani is talking to Krishna. The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not want you dressed like a prince, nor do they want you to associate with great warriors in a different country. They cannot leave the land of Vrindavan, and without your presence, they are all dying. What is their condition to be? Tumi Brajar Jivan Braja Rajara Pranadan Tumi Brajara Sakala Sampad Kriparda Tomarman Asi Jiao Brajajan Braje Uday Karo Nijapad. My dear Krishna, you are the life and soul of Vrindavan Dham. You are especially the life of Nanda Maharaj. You are the only opulence in the land of Vrindavan, and you are very merciful. Please come and let all the residents of Vrindavan live. Kindly keep your lotus feet again in Vrindavan. Shunya Radhika Bhani Braja Prema Manayani Bhave Vyakulita Dehoman Brajaloke Primashuni Apanake Rini Mani Kore Krishna Tare Ashvasan. After hearing Srimati Radharani's statements, Lord Krishna's love for the inhabitants of Vrindavan was evoked, and his body and mind became very much perturbed. After hearing of their love for him, he immediately thought himself to be always indebted to the residents of Vrindavan. Then Krishna began to pacify Srimati Radharani as follows. Pranapriye Shunamor e Satyabachan Tomasabar Smarane Jurun Mui Ratri Dine Moraduk Najane Kunjan. My dear Srimati Radharani, please hear me. I am speaking the truth. I cry day and night simply upon remembering all you inhabitants of Vrindavan. No one knows how unhappy this makes me. Brajabasi Jatajan Matapita Sakagan Sabe Hoy Mora Pranasam Tara Madhye Gopigan Sakat Mora Jivan Tumi Mora Jivanera Jivan. Sri Krishna continued, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan Dham, my mother, father, cowherd, boyfriends, and everything else are like my life and soul. And among all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis are my very life and soul. And among the gopis, you, Srimati Radharani, are the chief. Therefore, you are the very life of my life. So tomorrow I'll resume from this point. Now we'll sing Hari Harai. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Hari Harai Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaoite Vignana Shabista Puran Jaoite Vignana Shabista Puran Echai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Echai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Kasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Kasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janame Janame More Abhilas Janame Janame More Abhilas Echai Gosai Jabe Branje Koilabas Echai Gosai Jabe Branje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narothamodas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narothamodas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narothamodas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narothamodas Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Sadashi Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Sadashi Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat Ki Jai, Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shridham Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sri Koladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan. Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Tirubab Mahotsav Ki Jai. Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami Tirubab Mahotsav Ki Jai. Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Tirubab Mahotsav Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.